Well, hello there. This is WTA Weekly. I'm Nick. This is Vanch. We're here to talk tennis. Vanch, how are you doing?
Doing well, Nick. That was a really cool intro, and now I'm really excited to talk about tennis.
Like, if you're excited about the show based on how good my intros are, good grief, we're in for a spotty record. Anyway, so
I meant the intro before we actually started.
Oh,
but your intro was great too. So
wow,
both of them.
That's my ego deflated, which, to be fair, it kind of needed to be. It's somewhat enlarged. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I have to say, from that intro, I think the main takeaway from it is, like, that seems to be John's favorite photo of you. To be fair, you look like you are looking hopefully into the future of tennis in that shot.
Yeah, that was taken. I was in San Diego, and it was just it was after the tournament was over, and I was just kind of looking ahead. So,
well, I'll tell you what. As you mentioned San Diego, because I don't think there's a specific order that's obvious to talk about this in, about this week's action. Let's talk about San Diego, and let's talk about the San Diego champion. Hello, Nerlan, who is in the chat. Nice to see you. San Diego champion Barbora Krejcikova had a shot at winning a second 500 title of the season. Third, I think it would have been her third title. She won another one. Well, answer that in a minute. Yeah. Terry, and but she didn't, because she actually lost from a set up against Zheng Qinwen, which actually might be harsh, given from the brief clips I've saw, because this is the one match I've watched the least of. Zheng Qinwen forced the comeback and is now wins the title in Zhangzhou and is now a WTA 500 champion, which in the current climate of how packed those draws can be, that's a quite significant achievement. So I've kind of thrown you two players to give you thoughts on, but go.
Yeah, I mean, for Krejcikova, it was a kind of a strange week in the sense, she got a retirement from Serenko, and then she had the first.
You had to mention that, didn't you?
5 or 6 games. Oh yeah, of course, I had to. How could I not?
Regular viewers will probably know what we're on about here. But anyway,
no. So I mean, so she got the retirement, and I just think she maybe wasn't as battle tested as Zheng along the way to the final, and so she went up a set, and Zheng played extremely well to come back and win the second. Started out really strong, and then had all the momentum in the third, and then the third was kind of back and forth with the two of them, and there were some chances for Krejcikova in the fourth game, couple of break points I remember, but Zheng just saved them brilliantly with 2 really big serves, and got out of that game somehow and managed to go up a break twice. But each time Krejcikova did well to claw back, and then kind of in the San Diego Open final, what happened is it was 4-all in the third, and it was Kenin who had the break chances, and it was Krejcikova who came up clutch, held serve, and then broke to win the match. Well, in this case, she couldn't quite save both the break points. She managed to save one. And then on the next one, I think Zheng she did really well to get a lot of returns back, and Krejcikova made a couple of untimely errors off a forehand wing, and then that was it. And Zheng was able to close the match out, and she served some of her best in the third set, and she really stepped it up. I thought she really embraced the whole environment of being, Chinese in front of the crowd, and she just played really good, aggressive front foot tennis throughout this whole week. And I think it also dates back from the Asian Games and the U.S. Open quarters, and she's put together a nice little stretch of like 5 or 6 tournaments now since Wimbledon, I would say, because up until Wimbledon, I was like, okay, when is Zheng Qinwen going to happen? When is she going to happen? Everyone's been talking about her first half of the year, and she had some disappointing losses early in slams. She had to miss Indian Wells, had to miss Dubai. So, and then there was this one fight. There were these matches she kept losing to Samsonova, and I was like, okay, when is she going to get over the line and like actually win something 500 level or bigger? So the fact that she did it at home in China from a set down against a pretty tough player like Krejcikova, a Grand Slam winner, and if Krejcikova had won this, she would have been in the top 10. It's fine. She's number 11 or 12 right now. She'll probably be in contention to win the WTA Elite Trophy. And if you'd asked me at the start of the year, I would have expected she would have been in the top 10, but she's there or thereabouts. And she didn't quite kick on after winning Dubai, but she has these great weeks. She had like 4 or 5 really good weeks this year. Now the thing is, can she be more consistent moving forward? And can Zheng, take this into next year and, potentially try to get into the top 10, make a year-end finals push? Because I think she has a lot of potential. Like I saw it all really come together this week.
Yeah, which we've been waiting for, as you said. And it's interesting you're saying, obviously, like, yeah, Zheng was named as a player, so we were told to watch out for through the first half of the year, but arguably we've been watching her for 12 months. I mean, Zheng was someone that like tennis fans may have clocked before, but obviously the day she kind of got on everyone's radar was when she was the one player to take a set off Swiatek in Roland Garros 2022.
Yeah.
And then since then, it's kind of been a bit, oh, well, what's happened? And yeah, you're right. With that first title earlier in the year, and then the Asian Games seems to have given her a big boost. And yeah, if she turns up, if she's playing the Elite Trophy, which she should be, I don't know where she is live now, but
yeah, I think she's like 18 or something in the race, so she should be in, right? Because I think it's 9 through 19, and then one wild card.
Yeah, or 20th, depending on if they want to give a wild card. But I don't know if they will, because obviously Zheng's in there, unless they want to put another Chinese player in. But with the Elite Trophy taking place in China, you would have to put Zheng as a favorite there, right? Like, she's clearly very comfortable playing there. She's got a great boost. Suddenly, she's and like that's going to be a packed field. It's going to be highly competitive.
I would think so. My only thing is, like, I don't know if all these players 9 through 19 are actually going to play, because like Sakari is number 9, will probably want to go to Cancun as a wild
especially
card.
Since Mukova's a question mark.
Yeah, Mukova is a question mark, so it's likely that maybe Sakari can get in somehow in the finals field, and then Krejcikova is playing the doubles in. I forgot she's actually playing the doubles in the year-end finals. So
she might have to choose between
the two. And then Kvitova has already shut down her season. Ostapenko, I don't know if she'll be like really into it, but she might give it a go. And then Bencic is like a question mark with her injuries as of late. So I think Samsonova should play it. I think Kudermetova should play it. Probably Kazakino will play it. It's like there's some question marks there in that like 9 through 19, where it's like I don't know if half of those are even gonna participate.
And that's the funny thing with the Elite Trophy, isn't it? Because it's not the one we talk about. It's kind of like an afterthought of that's happening, and it's a useful event because it actually traditionally gives someone great momentum going into the following season. But you don't really think about it until it kind of happens, and you're like, oh yeah, there's this event as well. At least that's how I find it. I think it's a good idea, but it doesn't get a lot of attention because of the overall finals. So
I wish they had like a next gen finals. That's kind of my dream.
I don't understand why. I mean, the only thing I can think of is maybe because the women tend to break through younger. Maybe they didn't feel they need to, because that would end up being a very highly competitive tournament anyway. It was very likely to be in contention for the finals. But I would agree. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Maybe once the WTA is in a better kind of financial state, it'll probably be easier for them to put an event on like that and market it.
which that's going to take a while, probably.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
someone who knows what they're doing financially running it.
right.
But yeah, Zheng Qinwen. I think this is there's something brewing with her. I think she's definitely one to watch in 2024, and I think we could say that with a bit more confidence compared to what we said when we were saying this last year about 2023. I mean, I rate anyone who wins a 500 very highly. I think people kind of go, why do you rate someone who's won a 500 so high? And I'm like, because most 500s are actually really, really hard to win.
Yeah, it's essentially all top 30 players every single time. Like, it's the entry list for some of these events. It's like if you're 25 or 26, you're sometimes having to play qualies.
Yeah. So, and was this one of those 500s? No. Was there still some very, very good players in the draw? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she beat Sakari along the way. She beat Kalinina, who's been in a Rome final this year. Paulini is playing a lot better than even what her ranking says. She can really pack a punch for her size, and she's quite a good player now, I would say. And Krejcikova from a set down. So yeah, these are all some really good wins, because I did have some questions even when she got to the US Open quarters. I didn't feel like she was able to play her very best against Sabalenka in that quarterfinal, and I felt like the Jabeur win was more about Jabeur somehow finding a way to get to the fourth round despite being, under the weather for most of the event, rather than, like, I don't know, maybe Zheng like getting the credit for an amazing match that she played. And so I couldn't quite tell, like, where is she at right now in her career. But this title, I think, is like the biggest thing she's done so far, I would say.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say Zheng Qinwen is going to win majors. I'm not saying she can't, because I definitely think she's got the talent to do it. Like, have an amazing 2 weeks, sure. Not going to write her off.
I still think she can get better in a lot of areas.
Sure bet, no.
Yeah, I think, like, she has room for a lot of improvement. Like, her serve can still get way better, even though her serve somehow, she's able to win a lot of free points because she has good direction on it. She can sometimes bring the heat. I think technically it could be a little bit more solid. There's still a bit of a hitch in the swing, in the service motion, and like, just overall it could get more, it could just set her up better than sometimes.
I know what you mean. It's a very wide stance that she takes when she's serving.
And it's almost like her racket face is a little bit open, like, as she's, tossing the ball. And I just wonder if there's, hopefully, like, long-term, like, also for injury prevention, but also just like, just for more efficiency, like in that stroke technique wise, like, there's some room for them to tinker around with it, because she's already got a great racket head speed, like when she does come through the shots, and her baseline play is, always front foot, powerful, aggressive. And I think she's constructing points a little bit better now, and she has a better feel for, like, just, winning many matches in a row. Like, I think she's now proven she can win like 5 or 6 matches in a row at the highest level. But I agree, like, the next step, it still feels like a big one, like, because this is usually the hardest jump, like going from 18 through to being 8 or 9 in the world is like sometimes the hardest thing.
Yeah, because you have to win that extra match every week. Yeah. That's the thing, or most weeks that you play. I did a deep dive into this once. Like, I think it was one of the first things I ever wrote on my own blog. And it was, if you look at it, top 10 players to get the points they need to win on average at least 3 matches a tournament.
Yeah.
Usually, typically, if you average out how many points they get, and then you look at the ranking structure, and same across men and women. So it does take that extra.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be winning at least like
70%
70% of your matches at minimum 2/3, I would say. So that means like winning 2 or 3 matches every event, which is I mean, if you play like 18 events a year, you got to do that for like at least 14 or 15 of them, and then you can have the odd bad loss here or there, but then it's like that consistency is really required, unless you just have a really big run somewhere and you just win a major out of the blue, and then you just lose early in some Masters events. Like, you can make it work, but
which we see a fair bit on the women's tour. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but and it feels like we still do have a lot of winners, like in these 500, like 10 winners, and we did still get new major champions. But I feel like there's a core group of like, okay, like there's like at least 10 to 12 now that can, like, on a given week, can if as long as we keep seeing those names over and over again, I think that's really good.
And that's what makes WTA tennis so interesting right now,
Yeah.
is that like with that, if they, and look, you say with that, with the quarterfinals, and like we're getting like if the top seeds make their way through, the fourth round is fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, did you say like 10 or 12 names?
Yeah, I mean, like for the 500s, but then like for the majors and then for the 1000s, it's like, I mean, I guess like amongst the, like for instance, our top 8 right now is really strong. Like the
Yeah.
field for Cancun is like one of the best I've ever seen. And
I know. I'm
yeah,
really hoping everyone who's made it to Cancun can play it.
yeah. A little bit
But
worried about Muhova, but
so am I.
apart from that, I think, yeah. I mean, and if Sakari does get in, I mean, that's still a really strong field. So
Yeah, given she's won Guadalajara, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. But like, yeah, you're right. As a 500, yeah, it's super competitive from round one. That's what I like. If a WTA 500 is happening, I'm usually really, really excited.
Yeah.
And I know that the way 500s are at the minute is kind of controversial, because obviously we know the top players aren't allowed to play 250s unless it's in their home country. So I appreciate that's controversial because it's causing major issues for smaller tournaments. It might be creating burnout among the top players. But in terms of the sporting product it offers, it's one of the best out there. So it's really tough to for me to criticize it, because what gets produced is brilliant.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. Like I do like it when lower ranked players like get the opportunities and they get to play those tournaments. But at the same time, I like the fact that it's all, basically the very best, and it's almost like, yeah. Occasionally, you do have like one or two wild cards. You still get the surprises. You still get all the great storylines. And if they're really going to go ahead and go through with this, then I mean, the 500s and 1000s and made like there's not going to be that much separating them.
No,
because as it is already, like the 1000s feel very similar to the majors because of the like 2-week format and the 96 majors. I mean the 96 player draws in a lot of these events.
Every sport finds a way to elevate its biggest events. If I think about golf, to win a major, you have to win an extra day. You have to go an extra day compared to every other event. If you are playing, I'm trying to think, like team sports is a bit different as a general rule. But like snooker, which is probably only really popular in the UK, that's, they have like 3 major events. And for those, it's a bit like the men's best of 5. Like it takes you have to win a few more kind of games to secure a match. They call them frames in snooker. There are other sports. It's kind of a bit different. Like, team sports don't really have majors in the same way. Like if the NFL is all about the Super Bowl, right? That's what everyone's trying to win at the end of the season. There's only one big prize. Football, soccer in the UK, around different countries. Obviously, it depends on, like, you've got your 3 domestic trophies, but those are and then the Champions League. But those are the only competitions you can enter. Yeah. So it's not like they can be elevated above others, apart from a few like exhibition trophies. So tennis is an interesting place with that. So I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I mean, I think that what they're trying to create is kind of similar to Formula One, where it's the top players, it's the top athletes every single week kind of thing. But the difference between Formula One is there is no one event that's more important than any others. They're all weighted equally. There's some with a little bit more prestige, depending on maybe the track they're racing on, but it's worth the same as everywhere else. But you do get the top guys playing every single week, but they are starting to run into trouble where people are going, it's super congested, which is conversations we're having around the tennis calendar as well.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more players like speak up about mainly about the balls, but also like about the scheduling and like with the Billie Jean King Cup being so close to the year-end finals, for instance.
And we've seen that a couple of times, right? We've seen a couple of news stories this week, and I'm sorry if people who may be listening in hoping for us to talk about the results. We will get there, but let's talk about the news around the WTA, because it's mainly the WTA. We've had Eva Lease pulling out and becoming an event, can't remember which one it was, saying, oh, she like other players is concerned about the injuries from changing balls week to week. I don't know enough about the insides of why the balls change each week, why that happens, and the conditions. I mean, obviously conditions are going to be different in different countries anyway, but I don't understand how that works. So maybe you might have an insight into that.
I think it has to do with like the tournaments and the which ball manufacturer they're sponsored by. So the players don't really
ideally you want one ball manufacturer for every tournament.
Yeah, ideally you do, although you also have to, because it depends on like, how it reacts with the court surface, because some are like faster, so in that case players prefer like slower balls for the faster surfaces, but not too slow to the point where you get arm injuries, because that's been the main complaint is like these balls just make it really hard in terms of how it reacts with our strings, and then you got to mess with your tension and your weight of racket. Like I remember Zheng Qinwen, like earlier in the year when she didn't have great results, she said in a WTA interview that I read with Courtney Nguyen of WTA Insider, actually, where she pointed to like how she had to tinker with her racket and her strings so many times because of the balls, and how they're just changing every single week. And like basically like even the US swing, it was like different balls, different weeks. I wonder if there's some way that tennis can do like per swing we have one ball, so at least it's like, okay, like clay court season, okay, like yes, we're playing in altitude and sea level, but at least there's like one ball manufacturer, and maybe they just like mess around with it like they do with rackets, like you just add an extra layer of paint or you add like something else to it, so where it's like basically the same structure, same material, same felt, everything, but it's just it's more lively in some surfaces and less lively in others.
Because I would help, because then that would benefit the ball manufacturers, because at least they could potentially be the ball for the swing.
Yeah. And then also like also what players complain about is like when the balls are new and you rotated them after every 7 games and they fluff up really quickly. So it's like, and then you have new balls, and then you have to get used to that whole thing. But I think it's just going to be an ongoing thing, and the more players speak out about it, maybe the more leverage that they'll have. But it's tough to really say, because the tournaments are the ones that have a lot of the say in tennis majority of the time, because that's how the structure works, like 50% players, 50% tournaments, but and there usually has to be some compromise. But that's why like the PTPA, I guess, exists, and we'll see how much traction that can realistically build.
I mean, let's face it, the PTPA is very good at saying stuff, but how much influence it has.
It will take a lot of time, but like, because I mean they do have like WTA representation at least finally, which is good to see, and they do have like a board now with like other people outside of tennis who have like business backgrounds finally come in. But I think it's a long way away from really having any kind of an impact when it comes to like overthrowing the main structure, or at least because the main structures, still main entities in the sport, still kind of see them as a threat, and so that doesn't exactly help when you have to work together with them.
Sean actually had a good question in the chat, which was how many different ball manufacturers are there? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know Wilson and Slazenger.
I think Penn balls do also exist during the clay court season.
You get Dunlop in the UK, but I don't think they go outside.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish there was more data on this, honestly, and it was more publicly available. A lot of this is we don't really have a lot of access to.
No, and like obviously, I think a lot of people will try and work it out. And then the other kind of non-tennis news there was which I actually wanted to talk about it. I'll babble at. Thanks, John. That they apparently most of the top 20, or a big chunk of them, apart from the Americans, seem to be pointed. I can't remember who tweeted this. I think it might have been John Wertheim, saying that they're asking for like a minimum income, and also saying that the calendar is too congested. Similar initiative to what the ATP's rolled out. The numbers they've kind of put up, from what I've seen, I haven't dug too deeply into it, they're kind of getting a lot of players at that sort of level they're asking at are getting it anyway. They just want it to be kind of guaranteed. So I don't necessarily have I don't really want to go necessarily too deep into the guaranteed payments thing, because that could be a podcast in and of itself. I'm happy to have that discussion. It's an area I want to learn about. I know somebody did point out that, like, could the WTA afford it? Potentially not right now, but say the numbers, I didn't necessarily think the numbers they were proposing was unreasonable. But I think my main question looking at it coming out of it was, the top players are saying the calendar is too congested. Okay, fair enough. I wouldn't argue with that, actually. But I'm curious to know what they think, how many events they think they want to be able to play every year. Because then I would go with, okay, we say there's no more, like, you say, okay, if you play no more, like, obviously there's a limit anyway, because like 16 tournaments count towards WTA ranking.
Yeah.
Like, you say, okay, well, if we're going to do this sort of Grand Prix style thing, you do your majors, you do your thousands, and then you only have 6 weeks worth of 500. So you might double stack them, a bit like the ATP does. Say if you would want to, say, put 16 as the limit. But I would really be interested to know what. Oh, I was right. It was John Wertheim. What number they want to put on it, saying that, like, the demands of the tour, like, what wouldn't be demanding, because that's the specifics I want to know, because I'm interested.
Yeah. I guess this seems fair in terms of like the number 100 player probably makes like around 500K the whole year, if you like looked at their year-to-date prize money or something like that. Yeah. So they want it to be a guarantee, because that's interesting, because other sports have that, like,
and the ATP's just introduced it.
Yeah. So with the WTA, I don't know if they can actually do it in terms of their budget right now.
Yeah, I don't think the WTA has the money to do it right now, but I don't think it's an unreasonable request.
Yeah. So I definitely would. I like, if players want to advocate for fighting for more, like, I'm kind of for it right now, because I feel like that's how change is, like, supposed to happen. Like, you're just supposed to come together unified and, like, propose it, because you don't ask, you don't really have a lot of sway in getting, as long as you're reasonable with it, right? So this seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, in terms of the money. What do you think about the tournaments point?
Yeah, I mean, if the tournaments are, like, for instance, like, if we need to get, like, the year-end finals thing sorted out, because that's throwing everything under the chaos right now. Like, we need to have a date, we need to have a time set way early in advance, so you can actually market the event. You can actually, like, when it's happening, so players can actually plan their schedule around it. And I think that's, like, the big point, because I heard that it's, like, going to go to Saudi Arabia for, like, 3 years, and it's like, we're going to have this in Cancun. Hopefully it'll be a good turnout, but it's just kind of a mess with, like, the facilities, like, not really being nearly ready. I'm sure they'll be ready by the time it's done, but I just wonder, like, how much interest will there actually be in terms of
Anastasia did point out that, like, it's a similar kind of setup in Miami.
Yeah.
And we all thought the same about Guadalajara, and Guadalajara ended up being a brilliant tournament.
Yeah, I guess
brilliant host for the WTA finals. That's why they got 1,000 off the back of it.
Yeah. The crowds in Latin America are usually really good, so I'm hopeful that they'll be able to sell a lot of tickets, and it would just help if it was planned, like a month before, even, because, like, 6 weeks out is really, like, pushing it.
All right. Well, I think we should probably get back to actual on-court action.
Yeah.
And people have been waiting for half an hour for us to actually talk about the people in the title of the video and the podcast.
Yes, let's do it.
Hello, podcast listeners. I know you're actually out there. So,
any other players besides Jabeur and Krejcikova that you think we should touch upon? I mean, I know Pauline had a good week.
What, in Zhengzhou?
Yeah.
Not really from Zhengzhou. I think I'm keen on moving to other tournaments.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
So let's talk about, like, trying to segue neatly here. Let's talk about a player who has definitely played a lot of tournaments this year, will be in Cancun, and is well known for already having a lot of money. And that's Jessica Pegula.
Nice.
So she won a 250 title in Seoul. I believe it's her first title outside of the US, but don't quote me on that. No, Mexico. Yeah, maybe outside North America. But
Outside
anyway,
North America, yeah.
I think I
There's
heard
been
that.
one in
I'm
each
actually wrong.
North American country, actually. So this one.
Yeah. But she won the 250 in Seoul, saw the final there. You probably did as well. Like, my take on it was she was definitely brilliant all tournament. Yuan did come back at her in the second set and made it quite competitive. And actually, the second set was really good watch. Like, they were both super, like, the athleticism from both was brilliant. But like, Pegula is obviously the top ranked player. And she got through it, and she was the stronger player on the whole, more consistent, which you'd expect. So this title very much deserved, and maybe this is what she needs going into Cancun, because match wins are match wins regardless of who you beat, and that's going to build confidence. And if she's feeling fresh going into Cancun with some momentum, that's going to make her stronger, because we've seen that she is able to beat the big names there. She's beaten Swiatek twice this year. She's beaten Goff this year. I don't know about Rybakina and Sabalenka. I'd have to check that head to head. But yeah, I think this has to be a very good result for her. And, the crowd absolutely loved that second set. You could tell they were super impressed with the tennis they saw. So win-win all round, I say.
Yeah, pretty good. I think she was mainly playing this tournament because of, her mom being from Seoul and from South Korea. And that was why she was really playing this, because even though she qualified for Cancun, she is keen on, returning to her roots basically and playing in front of her home crowd and then picking up match wins, because she's a player who just loves to play matches. Singles, doubles, mix, whatever it is, she'd rather play than practice. And she uses these kind of weeks and just gets more matches in, and she wins. And she does it really well, and she hits the ball deep, and she's consistent, and she makes you play a certain level to beat her. And she had like maybe one offset this whole week, and that was against Claire Lou. She lost the first set. Some people on my timeline were, a bit worried, like, oh no, like she's gonna lose to Claire Lou in a 250. That's bad. But but I think, but actually, like, it turned out to be a really good test for her, and she came back from a set down, and then really came through very nicely in the semis and finals. There weren't that many hiccups. And one, to her credit, like, actually fought pretty nicely in the second set. It was closer than what the score says of 6-3. Shame that she finished it on a couple of double faults and didn't at least make Pegula serve it out and hold there. But I think, like, it was just, it was one of those weeks that were like, you looked at every single player that she played and you're like, okay, she's a heavy favorite. She's a heavy favorite. You're a heavy favorite. So she came through and she actually won another title. She doesn't have that many titles in her career. She has a lot of deep runs. So that's kind of what she's known for. So, but now she has a couple 250s, a couple thousands, was in a couple 500 finals this year, lost one to Iga and then lost one to Kudermetova, which she wasn't too happy about because she played a really tight first set there, and then the second set kind of ran away from her. So I think this is probably a good thing, because now she got the confidence of this week. She'll have next week off, and then and then Cancun is pretty much around the corner. So I'm interested to see how she can do, because I don't think the tournament will be indoors this year. Because if it's outdoors, then I like her chances a lot more of, depending on how the groups shake up, like at least winning.
I think it's going to be outdoors. I mean, I'm having a look at her records against Sabalenka and Rybakina, because we know what it is against Swiatek, and mentioned Goff earlier. So Sabalenka is 4-1 up in that head-to-head. Pegula beat her the first time they ever played in Cincinnati 2020. But
they haven't played this year, though, right?
No.
So
and then her head-to-head with Rybakina is interesting, because they've played 3 times. Pegula's 2-1 up. But Rybakina won the most recent meeting in Miami this year, which is the only time they played this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she's going to be competitive.
I do too. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see which group she falls in, because she and Coco, they keep going back and forth, and they always, have good matches. And then if she has I don't know, a Vondrousova or a Sakari or someone like that in her group, there's going to be chances for her.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
you know what, something I kind of charged myself to, and I got really stuck with it because I was like, oh my word, I don't know what kind of dream setup would be, like what this would be. But do you have like an ideal group draw for the WTA finals?
I haven't
Like,
really thought of that actually. That's a good
yeah,
thing to think
we know
about.
Swiatek and Sabalenka can't be in the same group. They're going to be in
Yeah.
different groups. And then one of them's going to have to, and then obviously you've got Rybakina and Goff. So which one's going to be better in which group?
That's
Like
that's
what
interesting.
competition? And then, yeah,
yeah.
you can't have Pegula and I think it's Vondrousova in the same group. And then it's Jabeur and Mukova bringing up the rear.
Mm.
I'm going to make sure I'm right on that. Oh, no, maybe not. Let's have a look.
I would like
Race.
to see some matchups that we haven't seen already, just to see how they shake up. Like I would want to see Pegula and Sabalenka play each other in a round robin.
Yeah, because they haven't done that.
Yeah, so like I would want to see that. I would want to see Pegula play Vondrousova again.
Well, they wouldn't be able to
Or
until at least
yeah.
the semi-finals
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
because they're 5 and 6.
5 and 6. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Huh.
So that's right. So we've already got kind of half a group. So Sabalenka, Pegula. So that would put Swiatek and Vondrousova in the other.
I see.
And then
I mean, we've seen Iga and Coco play a lot this year already.
we've seen Iga and Leylah play a lot this year.
We have, yeah. Although that would be fun to see again, just because they could have met more and they haven't.
Yeah, and I don't, because obviously, like, at what point do we want? Yeah, because then obviously, if you put Iga and Leylah in like one group and then put Goff with Sabalenka and have a US Open final rematch in the group stage.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I haven't really thought about it much.
No, it's like I'm literally putting you on the spot here, and then. But we've always got it, to be fair. Like, then the only other one is Mukova and Jabeur that we need to put in.
Yeah.
Like, do we want to put Mukova with Sabalenka or Swiatek? Because she's got 2 wins against Sabalenka and pushed Swiatek in the one meeting they had. So she's good in either if she plays.
I wonder how Jabeur and Mukova can't play each other.
No, not until at least the semi-finals.
Not until the semis, right?
So I want to see that. I mean, like, hey, why do we just hope that top 4 seeds all lose and it's 5, 6, 7, 8 in the semi-finals and further?
I mean, like 6 through 8 has been really strong recently in most of the WTA finals. Like I think Garcia was like 6th or 7th, right?
Yeah.
She won.
Yeah, it wouldn't be on the realms. I guess. Okay, what if you had one group being Sabalenka, Goff, Pegula, and Mukova, and then the other one being Swiatek, Rybakina, Vondrousova, Jabeur.
Yeah, I like that.
We haven't had an Iga Jabeur yet.
Yeah,
we have, but it got stolen from us due to injury.
Yeah, that doesn't really count. So yeah, those would be pretty good. Like Iga Jabeur, Iga Mukova again.
Like we'd be spoiled for choice either way. Yeah. Like, and we're going to be spoiled for choice. Like they're all.
Honestly, they're all good. Like
I can't think of a bad group we could get.
Right. Yeah, I would just.
Like, not unless it somehow ends up being like Iga and because she doesn't really have any like people she's got a massive matchup advantage with. Maybe if Iga had Coco, Pegula, and Ons in one group, that might be her dream group, matchup wise. But even then, there's no guarantee because they've all, like, with the exception of Jabeur, like Pegula and Goff have got wins against us this year.
Yeah, this is like one of those final fields where I feel like everyone has a win against everyone at some point so far. With the exception of Vondrousova was a bit newer in the group, but
obviously American and Czech fans will probably want their players in different groups.
Yeah.
Try and stretch it out. But yeah, okay, that's Pegula. Yeah. Was there? You were very positive about Yuan. I agree. I mean, how you pronounce that name? I'm trying not to say Juan, which would be wrong.
Yuan, I think something like that.
Okay.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she did a good job this week in Seoul. I don't think there's any other meal stories from that event.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else in terms of talking points for Seoul.
All right. So, final event that was played this week was Fernandez against Siniakova, and Fernandez winning the Hong Kong Open, third title of her career. This was vintage Fernandez all week. She was at her battling best. Came from behind to beat Siniakova in what was a really, really good final. It was really tight all the way through. Siniakova could have won it. There was so many momentum shifts. No one could hold. Like, they were both right in the edge of service games. Absolutely brilliant run from Fernandez. I actually think it's that Andreeva match that really pushed her forward, because she was down and she'd already lost Andreeva earlier in the year. And the way she came back, and like, okay, Andreeva faded a bit, but that was, you could tell from Fernandez, it meant a lot to her winning that match. And I looked at that and I went, I think she might be winning this title now. Which I'm going to be biased. I am biased. Fernandez is one of my favorite players, and I'm so happy she won. And it was so great to see her playing good tennis again. So, yeah, great. Obviously, very happy about that result. But yeah, I thought it was a really, really good final with Siniakova. It was a real battle. It was nice to see two very crafty counter punchers doing their very best against each other.
I really like the matchup stylistically, because Siniakova can really blast away on her backhand, and she has these injections of pace. And then you got Fernandez with all her angles and her crafty shots and taking the ball early. And she was serving a little bit better, and it just seemed like it was matching up really nicely for both playing well at the same time. And for quite a bit of the match, actually, like there were some patches where they were making errors, sure, but it was mostly just absorbing a lot of what was coming at them and reacting in fast time. So I think it was pretty good to see Fernandez like just put together win after win after win, and actually go on and win a title again for the first time since Monterey, which she's won twice. And I think it could have even come sooner for her, but like, she's just been running into tough early round matches. And like, I remember I was there in San Diego when she played Haddad Maya, and that was a good hard fought match too, but she just came on the losing end of that. And then like other matches, like first round of US Open, she drew Alexandrova, which is like such a tough first round. And then she made the quarters in Guadalajara. So it's like kind of been building, where I felt that she was starting to get better and better and better. And now she's like actually legit. She could be seeded for the Australian Open, which is pretty good for her, because she missed a lot of time last year with that injury that she had in Roland Garros. That was so unlucky. I felt really bad for her in that Roland Garros match against Trevisan, because I think if she was actually healthy all the way through and she didn't have the foot issues, there were real chances for her in that event to go further even, and maybe even get to the final, although you never know. Golf would have been tough, but still.
I would have loved to watch that. Goff Fernandez on clay, here for it. Would love that.
Yeah.
If they're both playing well.
Yeah, and then she was like playing some of her best tennis around that time, and it wasn't as much of a hangover after the US Open as it was for Raducanu for a lot of other reasons. But it's just like really good to see her like put it together, because she lights up crowds in ways that like I haven't seen very often from young players before, because everyone just remembers that run and they know like what she's capable of, and she just has this exciting, charismatic personality too on top of it. So it's kind of
I think she's one of those players that feeds off a crowd.
Yeah,
very much so. Otherwise, like she might struggle to generate motivation. I don't know. Like, we're getting someone's head, and we don't know that. Yeah. But she,
I think the move with playing
like one or two good weeks a year. I think she's one of those players.
Yeah, like, and I also think like playing doubles with Townsend is like a good move at this point in her career. Like, I think that could pay off in the long run, because it's just like hanging out with someone who is much more experienced and been through the grind in the way that Townsend has, and the chemistry that they have when they seem to play those doubles matches. I feel like a lot of that energy just rubs on Leylah, and she's like a sponge every time she's on the court with Taylor, and like I just think it's like a good year for her to like work her way back up, and then next year, like, it's just setting herself up really good for next year if she can just stay healthy and like I have to sometimes remember she's only 20. I think she
Yeah.
just turned 20 this year, which is like she's only a few months younger than, like Alcaraz on the
Wait,
men's side, which is
Leylah,
yeah,
didn't she turn 19 in that US Open run in
she did, yeah.
2021?
So I think, oh, sorry,
She's
did I say
21.
I mean 21, yeah, she's born in 2002, yeah. So just turned 21, yeah. I mean, she's still like so young. So I think she's already won 3 250s. She has a Slam quarterfinal and a Slam final now, and she also got her first Masters quarterfinal this year. So yeah, and it could have been even more if there were more points on the table for her. But I think having gone through that injury is probably a good thing.
Yeah, and I'm well for her being seeded because it would just, as you say, stop the ridiculous draws that she's been getting.
Yeah.
I mean, like, great box office first round, but very frustrating to see as a fan.
Right.
Because I feel like she's someone who needs to build momentum through a tournament.
Yeah. I felt like that Azarenka match was building up nicely, but then unfortunately Azarenka got hurt. But
the Andreeva match, though.
Yes, that was a big scalp actually. And Andreeva's been losing a lot of these close 3-set matches, but really coming out really strong in the first set and winning them a lot of the times and really imposing her game. But she's 16, and so
the closing those kind of matches out takes experience.
It does.
I mean, obviously she's probably done it at lower levels, but it's the elite level. It's the main tour. Like the caliber of players you're playing against, you have to readjust expectations for. So she'll learn it. She'll figure it out. Goff did in the end.
Yeah, she'll learn. She'll accept the fact that you'll have a level dip and their opponent will raise their level, and you just have to kind of adjust and put that behind you. And sometimes she lets the disappointment linger for a little too long, maybe in some situations, and that hurt her. For instance, against Goff at the French, and that match against Keys at Wimbledon, and then against Rybakina last week, and then now here. So that's like 4 big examples, but she's getting herself in those positions and winning enough matches to face them. So I think she's like already top 50 or something, and like I don't really have much of a doubt that in 2 or 3 years she'll be winning these type of matches like pretty regularly, because I just feel like she has such a complete game already.
Yeah, I agree, and she's got a fantastic tennis IQ, so I'm very confident in her ability to work it out. But we definitely shouldn't be predicting her to win slams at 17, 18. I think that would be pushing a little bit. Like that's setting a high standard, which we've seen so many times. People rip into players when they don't reach. And do you know what? Something point. Siniakova, great week in Hong Kong. But I visualized that obviously the doubles partners lost. The doubles team lost. They both lost their finals. They really do win and lose together. But she's had a great week as well. Yeah,
very good week. She beat that match against Pavlyuchenkova was pretty impressive actually.
Pavlyuchenkova was looking good.
Yeah, she was looking really, really, really strong. Like hitting the ball bigger, and striking it better than I've seen like a really long time. And then the way she beat, like even the Trevisan, the way she was able to just close her out very comfortably.
Because Trevisan raised some eyebrows by getting to the semis.
Yeah. But then she could have won this match too. She actually fought really well in the third set because she got hurt. She hurt her, like she already had her left quads taped, but then Leylah was chasing down this excellent drop volley, and then she falls and she does a bit of a misstep at the very last minute and trips, and then she gets treated for a medical timeout. But then afterwards, actually really came out and still fought. She was a little limited at some point, kind of injured, you could tell, but still managed to break Leylah twice, get it to 4-all, just like in the Krejcikova Qinwen final. And then Fernandez finally pulled through at the end, which it could have ran away from her too. So
because you're right. That match could have gone either way. Siniakova could well have. We could be talking about Siniakova as the champion, because I think that was a long juice game with like 9 juices or 10 juices in like 4-3 in the second. Fernandez could have lost the break, and that would have really put the momentum with Siniakova to finish her off. And then there was so many break exchanges in the third.
Yeah, you're right. That second set was wild because she was up 4-love. was Leylah, and then she got pegged all the way back to 4-3, and then she saved 6 break points in that game, and like I think 5 of those were with really good serves and serve plus ones afterwards, and really saved all of them. It was
good tennis from both. It wasn't a messy match.
Yeah, quality was very high. I have to say this was one of the stronger 250s for sure in the whole year.
I think actually, if you watched all 3 250 finals, which you would have been able, all 3 finals, both 250s and the 500, you were in for a treat because they were all 3 good quality matches for different reasons.
Yeah, for sure. And like all the winners this week, like they seem to be pretty popular champions in general.
Yeah.
So that's always a good week.
Okay. Interesting. Cool. Right. I think we're coming up to the end. Obviously, very quickly, we've got some tournaments coming up in this week.
Yeah, we got Monastir, which is a 250, and then we've got the tournament in Romania as well.
Yeah.
Cluj. And then we have one in Nanjing, I believe, which is also a 250. Bit of a lower stakes week finally for the WTA, just because a lot of the top players either getting ready for the year-end finals or for the elite trophy. So
yeah, right. I think but like Monastir should be interesting. Obviously, we've got boots on the ground there. Question marks over whether Jabeur is going to play.
Yeah,
but I think that could still be a very interesting tournament.
It will be, I think. Obviously, Jabeur was going to be like the main attraction. But that's gotta suck for her because that's like 2 years in a row where she hasn't been fully healthy for her home tournament. It sucks that it's so late in the year, so she doesn't get that luxury of playing at home. And it's good that they have the tournament in Tunisia because that'll just get more people into the game just through Anza's story in general, even if she's not playing. But maybe Paulini can win her title there, and she's been building some momentum and playing some pretty good tennis. She's the number 1 seed, and then number 2 seed is Martins, the defending champion who won it last year. She's playing a pretty promising Philippines player in the first match. How do you pronounce her name? Alexandra Ayala?
Ayala? I don't know.
Ayala? Okay, yeah, I'll work on the pronunciation. But she qualified, and she's in the top 200, and that'll be fun to watch.
That could be, I think Ayala's a player with a lot of potential given her junior career. So I think that's definitely going to be a match that's worth watching. I'm going to have to apologize for the abrupt end here, just to say that we have a couple of other tournaments going on in both 250s in Transylvania and Nanchang. Apologies, I'm not going to be able to do a full preview. I'm kind of on a limited time schedule here. So apologies for those who would be disappointed, but thank you so much, Vanch, for coming on. Really appreciate it. Always great chatting with you. And hope everything goes okay. Yeah,
thanks a lot, Nick. This is always really, really good fun, and we have so many other good weeks coming up. I mean, not for this whole year. We've got 3 or 4 really good ones, and I'm excited to see just how the year finishes as a whole with the landscape right now.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time. I'll be back for WTA Weekly next week, where we'll be chatting around everything at 250 and looking ahead to the Elite Trophy, and we'll find out who's going to be in it. But in the meantime, everyone, keep talking tennis.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.